When I bought the property, the creek was one of the reasons I signed the papers without hesitation. It wasn't huge, just a narrow, winding stream that cut through the back of my land before disappearing under a line of trees. It had been there longer than the neighborhood, longer than the wall, longer than most of the houses around it. According to my deed, the creek sat entirely on my property. No easements, no shared access, no law authority. That didn't stop them. The problem started after a week of heavy rain. A few backyards in the WA neighborhood downhill from me got soggy. Not flooded, just wet grass and muddy patches near their fences. Instead of fixing their own drainage, the WA board decided the creek was the problem. I found out the hard way. One morning, I woke up to the sound of engines. By the time I walked to the back fence, a construction crew was already there. Dump trucks, rebar, concrete forms. They were pouring solid concrete directly into my creek, turning it into a flat channel that redirected the water away from the WA lawns. I asked who authorized it. The foreman handed me a clipboard and said, "WA order." They said it's a drainage ditch. I called the WA president immediately. She told me, confidently, that the creek was community infrastructure. She said they had the right to improve it for the benefit of the neighborhood. When I told her it was on my land, she laughed and said, "Water doesn't belong to anyone." By the end of the day, the creek was gone. Buried, cemented, silent. I sent cease and desist letters. The WA ignored them. I showed them my deed. They said it didn't matter. One board member even emailed me saying, "You should be grateful we fixed it for free." Then something interesting happened. The water didn't disappear. It backed up. Within 2 weeks, the HOA's lowest streets started flooding. Yards turned spongy. Storm drains overflowed. Mosquitoes showed up in clouds. The same people who called my creek just a ditch were suddenly furious. And that's when I made one phone call. Part 2. One inspection changed everything. I didn't call a lawyer first. I called the environmental office. Turns out, creeks like mine, natural, continuously flowing, and connected to a larger watershed, aren't just water. They're regulated, sometimes locally, sometimes by the state, and sometimes by the federal government. 3 weeks after my call, inspectors showed up. Not just one agency, several. They brought satellite images, soil maps, and historical surveys dating back decades. They confirmed what I already knew. The creek existed long before the HOA. It had never been classified as a drainage ditch. And it had been illegally obstructed. The concrete wasn't just a violation, it was contamination. One inspector looked at the flooded WA streets and said something that made the board go pale. "By blocking the water flow, you've effectively created a wetland." That word, wetland, changed everything. Wetlands come with rules, serious ones. You can't build on them. You can't drain them. You can't alter them without permits that take years, sometimes decades, to obtain. Suddenly, the HOA's fix became a nightmare. Homes near the flooded areas were flagged. New construction permits were frozen. Property sales stalled because lenders refused to finance homes near a newly designated wetland. Insurance companies started backing out. Then came the fines. The HOA was ordered to remove every inch of concrete and restore the creek to its original condition, on my land, under federal supervision. The cost estimate alone ran into the millions. They tried to blame the contractor. The contractor blamed the HOA. The WA tried to blame me. It didn't work. During the final meeting, the same WA president who laughed at me weeks earlier asked, very politely, if I would allow access to my property to fix the creek. I agreed, on one condition. They would acknowledge, in writing, that the creek was mine, and that they had no authority over it. They signed. The concrete came out. The water flowed again. Wildlife returned within months. The flooding slowly receded. But the WA neighborhood, it never fully recovered. Several board members resigned. Property values dipped. And every time it rains, residents are reminded that ignoring the law, and someone else's land, can turn a simple fix into a permanent disaster. All because they thought my creek was just a ditch.